Satnam aloha, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. So if you could put your name and your type, your human design type, if you're feel called. I just want to make sure that I'm on here. Okay. Okay, it seems to be working. I'm just going to go for it. Um, okay. So remember the last video, the theme of the week was the 19. Remember the 19? And this was the shadow of codependency. Okay, so that we were looking at this week. And now we're not out of it as of today. We're in the sixth line, right? So 19.6. So what does that mean? It means that we're at the very end of our lessons, right? So when the sun moves into each hexagram, it starts point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, point 6. It always goes that way because the sun never goes retrograde, obviously. But once it gets to the sixth line, that's when you get the lesson. So you're able to look back and evaluate and reflect on what you've been learning about codependency. So if you're new to this channel, then go back and watch my last video and you'll get some information on that. And you've got about 4 or 5 more hours, right? That the insight will come. It's like, oh, these are the areas where this shadow of codependency really shows up for me. It shows up for me with this person. It's basically when you're putting something in between you and your relationship with the divine. Instead of the correct alignment is you connected directly to the divine. There's not someone or some institution or something that gets in between you and your relationship with the divine. So it's been about relationships this week. Okay, so keep that in mind. And we're going to talk about the new moon that's coming up on January 9th. So next week. And I thought we'd get ahead of the game and talk about it now because it fits in with this 19. So you can see down here, this is the transit chart, right? You see the 49 down there. This is off the solar plexus. That's emotions, our emotions, right? So that's the moon, 49.2. And then the sun, 49.2. So that makes it a new moon. But you can see the 19 on the other end, right? So that was what we're in right now. That's being activated. So it's part of a channel. It's called the channel of synthesis. And it's very tribal, right? It's very tribal. Okay. So it's all about our relationships now. So we know, right, with the 19, we got to see, okay, this is really unhealthy dynamics. I have to shift and change and correct. And as always, with a human design, you use your strategy and authority. That's the best way to make the corrections that are correct for you, right? So let's look at the energy for this new moon. So you can see here we've got definition, right? Where it's colored in. Now, if you don't have your natal chart, just scoot down into the information box and you can click the link and get your free chart. And then this way you're going to be learning about human design as when you follow my channel. So this is the head center or the crown chakra. As a yogi, I would call that the crown chakra. And then this is the ajna, but it's not the third eye that we understand it as. If you know about the chakras and yoga, etc., right? This is your personal mind in human design. Okay, so the 6124, the 61 is Venus and then Jupiter. So Venus and Jupiter are activating this channel, right? So it's the channel of awareness, right? So during 2020, this was activated a lot because Pluto was in the 61, right? So this is about your thinking, right? This is about your thinking and it's individual. It's individual. Okay. So if we look down at the 49, remember it's tribal. It's tribal. So this is about thinking, your individual thinking. So this is really about a reflection. That's what this is saying. This is about reflecting and getting off the surface of life. right? Most people live on the surface of life. This is going deep, 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 and allowing these thoughts to come forward that are insights, right? So how the mind works with individual thinking, if you have an individual, say you've got this channel yourself, the channel of awareness, then it's just the mind is just thinking, thinking, thinking. That's just what it does. You can't stop your mind from thinking. You can't, right? You can't stop the mind from thinking. All you can do as a soul is to detach from the thinking and not have a relationship with your mind. But the thinking is just what the mind does. It just thinks, 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 thinks. So you don't attach, especially if it's just like thinking about, just mundane surface things. It will get to a point, right, where an insight will come, and the insight will be mutative. Remember, that's our magic word during this time that we're in now. 2024 is mutative. This means life changing. This means that you have this insight that can mutate you and others, right? So this is happening in the new moon, right? And the new moon starting a whole new cycle. It's a whole new cycle. So you can expect this if you just surrender to the process and you don't attach and identify with the thought when the mind is just doing its thinking, to attach and then run and make your decisions from that place, right? You always want to go back to your strategy and authority with human design. That's your tool that you can really lean on during these times. And then let's look at this 49. Okay. This is revolution, right? This is Aquarius, revolution, revolution. So the 19 was about our needs, right? The 19 is about our needs. And this is tribal consciousness that's leaving, being mutated and leaving the human consciousness, right? It's leaving behind, and the collective consciousness and individual consciousness will be left behind. So this channel in itself is breaking down, that I talked about in my last video, right? And it's connected to the 55, right? So this is the solar plexus mutation that we're going to experience in 2027. The 49 is connected to the 55, right? Chemically, they're chemically connected. So the 49 has a big part to play in this mutation that we're experiencing. Okay, so let's look at what this is. And it's the gate of principles. It's the gate of principles, right? The gate of principles here. So the 49. So these principles, they're breaking down. I want to make sure that you guys see this. Okay, just a sec. Okay, great. You can see it because I got a delay, right? So for the 49, right? So the 49, this is what's breaking down, right? What's breaking down. So tribal principles. So what are those? These are the guidelines that we live from as a society, as a civilization. They're breaking down. So here's some examples of tribal principles that we've all been conditioned to obey, and they were correct for us at one point, right, as humanity. Well, justice, right? Justice, the rule of law, right? No one is above the law, right? Equality, popular sovereignty. That was all about that. In terms of rulership, right? The ones at the top of the pyramid do not rule the ones below the pyramid. That we make our decisions as a collective, basically. This is very Aquarian, right? This came from the French Revolution and the American Revolution in the 1776, 1787, right? Around that time period. This was when Pluto was in Aquarius, right? The last time. So it brought these Aquarian ideals. The Aquarius is about idealism, right? But we wrote them in law, right? Basically, and then we followed them. Well, these are now breaking down, and we can see this out in the world. Natural divine rights, that you have rights as a human being, just the fact that you're a human being. There's rights that you're just given, right? Because you're alive, basically. And they come from the divine, your divine rights. Reward for hard work, right? You work hard, you go to school, you study, you get the higher education. This is the 49 and the 19. And then you get the good job, You're rewarded well materially, right? Reward for hard work. Truth, right? That was something that was a guiding principle too for us in the tribe. Rewarded for speaking the truth, right? Even when it was difficult, when people and organizations and uh, institutions didn't want to hear it, but it was rewarded, right? To speak the truth. Well, now we're seeing that this is all gone, right, out in the world because we're seeing the corruption, right? It's surfacing, and we're seeing how these principles they're just breaking down. So this is just part of the matrix that's breaking down that we're seeing. So now it's like you're rewarded. We see, oh, you're rewarded for lying. You're rewarded for cheating and stealing and exploiting others. You're rewarded. The masses are rewarded for their obedience and their conformity. They're rewarded for not asking questions, just following orders, and then they get rewarded. So it's all upside down, and it's just part of the process of this breakdown, right? Of for the new cross of the sleeping phoenix that's coming in 2027. This was all connected to the cross of planning. So 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 how this works is we have our own personal values. So we've got our tribal principles that we live by in our society. They're breaking down. This is causing chaos because our personal values of the individual are no longer aligned with these, right? We're no longer aligned with lying, cheating, stealing, exploitation, and obedience and conformity. That's not the human spirit, right? So this causes revolution on the collective, and we're seeing that in France. It makes so much sense that it's happening in France first. It's like the French Revolution 2.0, and then the American Revolution with Texas is starting, right? So not to get into fear about this. This is just part of our evolution so that we can create new principles to live by. But you need to know for this new moon, what are your values, right? What are your non-negotiables? What are your deal breakers, right? In terms of your relationships. Okay. So that's a good way to reflect on this instead of like, oh my, they've got to fix this, they've got to fix this. No, it's got to break down first before it can be rebuilt. Okay. So the thing also, just because we're on this slide, is this is Aquarius, right? So this is the new moon in Aquarius. Pluto's in Aquarius. We're going to have an Aquarius party pretty soon in February. So these are the NPCs, right? The conditioned masses. This is the not self world. They're not in touch with their own authenticity, which means they're not in touch with their power. They're not connected to the power. So this is the shadow of Aquarius that we have to look at. So these are the robots. They seem like robotic. They're heartless. These are the obedient conformists, right? This is what will happen if people fall into the shadow of Aquarius. Aquarius isn't all about innovation and progression, progress and humanitarianism. It's this too, that we've got to look at the shadow, light and shadow. It's the plane of duality. We're going to see both. This is reaction, and that's the shadow of the 49. So just reacting to whatever, right? Just the contrary for being for just the sake of being contrary. Fanatical, because it's fixed. Aquarius is a fixed sign. Wants to just destroy with no alternative, right? So no solutions, no solutions. So we're going to see this energy out in the masses, especially in 2024. Right? The tribal principles are breaking down, and it's like I can't stand this anymore. I just want to destroy it, but there's no replacement. There's no solution. I just want to destroy. There's no deeper thinking, right? I just need to get rid of this system that I can't stand. Okay, opinionated, non-reasonable. That's the fixed sign. Not open-minded with the 49, not open-minded, not authentic, right? So you always think of, well, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. It's all about being your individual self. But right? This is the shadow. And remember that Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. That's the ancient ruler of Aquarius is Saturn. And Saturn's the status quo, right? So I talked about this bifurcation of consciousness in terms of Aquarius. It's right. Summer will go the Saturn route, right? We'll go to the Saturn route. I don't want anything to change. Or just wants to be different. This is this reaction, where people are like, I'm so alternative, and then they just hang out with other alternative people and they all dress alike and sound alike and think alike. They're just conforming, but wearing a different uniform. So reaction to status quo, antisocial, thoughtless and negligent, erratic, unpredictable, that's the Uranus, inconsistent and aloof. Groupthink, there's the danger right there with Aquarius, is the groupthink, overly influenced by groups, right? So people who have strong Aquarius in their chart, they've got to watch out for this. Are these values and principles, are they mine? Am I aligned with the principle of this group, or am I just going along with the group? I mean, group ego. Also, I'll talk about this as they can talk themselves out of their emotions, especially if you're a robot. Aquarius is an air sign, so it can be completely too much in the mind and not in the heart. And we need both. Remember, Leo's on the other side, the heart, overly identified with the mind, right? Avoiding the present moment. And like I said in my last video, if you're thinking, you're not in the present moment. You've been hijacked by your mind. So keep that in mind. And then what else did I want to say about this? Oh, it's the second. So let's go to you as an individual. We did the collective. So the 19, you reflected on where those codependent dynamics came up. I told you just need to see it, and then you start making the correction. You start obeying your strategy and authority. It's in human design. And things will start to correct themselves. And remember, it's going to be a bit messy. It could get a bit messy while the correction takes place. So you've seen those. This is the 19, right? And there's the 49. And it's the 49.2. And it's called last resort. That's the keynote for last resort. Okay. So this is, you looked at your codependent things, and this doesn't mean, and I love the person that asked that question about the independence and codependence. Independence is a part of the shadow of codependence, but we do have our needs in relationship, and so this isn't necessarily codependent. So this is about being okay in your relationships, to ask for what you need, without attachment to an outcome. So, okay, I'm going to express my needs without attachment to an outcome. Okay. And then that person that you're in relationship can say yes or no. That's their choice. And then, but you have the information, but you're not attached to the outcome. So not to have, so working with the shadow of codependence, it doesn't say, well, I deny all my needs in my relationship. So here's where the 49 works out. Okay. And so this new moon is a new cycle. So this is about your relationships. And this is the 49-19. The 49 is the butcher. It's called the butcher. And the butcher like cuts, rejects, right? It rejects or accepts the principles of your relationship. So I've got the big picture, this is all tribal, right? The tribal principles, but you have your own principles within your relationships. You have your own values, what's important to you. So codependency, the working with the shadow, will let you really see, well, no, this is a real important value to me. I can't just like stuff it down and pretend it's not there, right? We're humans, we have our needs. So, and this is the bride and the groom. It's called the bride and the groom. It's just about and remember that marriage is breaking down for this new age. That's one of the institutions that's breaking down. So that too is breaking down, right? The traditional marriage isn't going to work anymore. It's not going to work anymore because we're different. We're evolving as a humanity. We're coming together for different reasons. It's just not about procreation anymore. So that's going to completely flip relationships on its head, right? So this changes, our needs change. So you got to get in touch with your needs. Now look at this, the seven, I'm going to just bop around here. So the moon's connected to the seven of swords. That's the tarot. So I intuitively didn't pick this, right? This is from the third decan of Aquarius, and it just squeaked through, so I had to round it up. So it's kind of new in the third decan, right? It's like 20, I forget how many minutes, 20 degrees and something minutes. So this is the seven of swords. So this is about deceit, right? It's about manipulation. Look, he's right. He's taken off. He's going away. He's getting away with something, basically. Deceit, manipulation, um, lies, betrayal, all the crazy stuff that we experience in relationships. And it's about trust, right? Who do I trust and who don't I trust? This right here. Okay, so let's see how this fits. And this is about lying. So not about another person lying to you or them lying to you. It's about you lying to yourself, right? To yourself. So for the 49, it's coming off the solar plexus. So it's very this is reactionary, right? Right here. So it's very emotional. It's very emotional here. And so how this seven of swords can work is that there's strong emotions that are coming up for you, maybe around not getting your needs met. Let's say that your needs aren't getting met in this relationship. You're holding on, right? You're holding on in this relationship because, look, you fear the future. That's what you're supposed to let go of. The self, no, this is all about fear of the future. This is Libra, right? It's about Libra. No, oh, good. I put the astro chart too. So there's the astrology chart. And look at that, eh? Chiron and the North Node are getting so close. They're less than a degree apart now. And this is huge, right? This is our deepest wounding, and it's in the seventh house. It's all about our relationships, right? Right there. Self node is what we let go of, right? This is the people pleasing. This is like, well, they didn't really mean that, or they'll change one day, right? They'll just change one day. I just have to be a better partner. I just have, because it's in the first house. I can't really set boundaries or express my needs, any of that. And right, because you don't want to go here. This is about expressing Aries, what you want, what your needs are, your identity, right? Valuing yourself, right? But Chiron's there, so there's a deep wounding here, right? And this goes right to the mother wound, right? This goes right to the mother wound. It's part of the mother wound healing that's going to be up, right? So that's going to be up for this and this mother wound online retreat is happening when these are totally conjunct. So we're supported in the energy. Go to my information box to learn more about that. Right? So letting that go. And then look what you've got here. You've got Mercury and Pluto and then Mars all together for a big party, right? This is emotional. This is very emotional. So your emotions aren't a bad thing, right? Your emotion, this is what we have to learn for this solar plexus mutation is our emotional intelligence, which is true intelligence. You know, we've been conditioned to think that our mind and our intellect is intelligent, and it's not. It can't hold a candle to your emotional, spiritual intelligence. The intellect is just gathers facts and information and then manipulates the facts and the information, and then we call it intelligent or intelligence. It's not, it's the intellect, right? So this is opening us up to our emotional intelligence. So things are coming up, say in your relationships, stuff, content starting to come up. It's getting triggered in your relationships, right? The other thing too, that this is the evolutionary path of awareness, right? So we're traveling the 2027 Aquarian age, right? We're traveling from the physical, the mental, the mind, to the emotional, to the frequency vibrational. This is the solar plexus mutation. This is the self-sensory system. So this is experiencing, and this is Aquarius. Those little lines, they're not water, they're energy, and the symbol of Aquarius. So this is coming into the frequency vibrational. So it's moving down, but it's also moving up, this evolution, involution. So it's also moving through us because this is our source. This is where we come from, frequency vibrational. This is truth, right? And remember I said the electromagnetic field of the earth is shifting, it's loosening. So all these memories that are locked up here, not just 0 to 7, but your ancestral memories are releasing, because this is your giant that's being activated. This is your soul, right? Is being activated, and it's moving upward. It's coming to the earth. It's coming to the earth. So look what's in its way. Look what's in the way right here. We've done the mental awareness system, right? We've taken the mind as far as it can. We've done really well with physical. We're still here as a species. So check, 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 like for the most part. And then the mental, the mind, but this is where we're weak. This is where we're crippled. So this is the block, the emotion, and this is the block right here. And so the mother wound is part of this block. So it's not just personal. Your mother received the mother wound from her mother, and her mother received it from her mother, and all the way down the ancestral line. We all have this mother wound, right? So this is what we have to move through to get to the frequency vibrational, right? So I'm just saying that because it's the 49 and it's reaction, and this is the emotional layer cake. So all these, there's only 3 emotions that you need to think of. Just keep it really, really simple. Okay, so there's the anger. This is the one most people feel the most comfortable in, is anger or depression. But that's the surface. Anger, depression is the surface. And then it goes deeper. Underneath the anger, depression is fear. And underneath the fear is grief, right? And once you get through the grief, the heart opens. The solar plexus starts to open, right? Solar plexus opens, releases that energy, opens up your heart, the sacred heart, right? And then more spirit, more of this frequency vibration comes into the physical, right? This is the secret. This is how we're evolving, is through the emotional body. So let's bring it back to the individual here in your relationships with the 49.2. Okay, so there's needs, right? Your emotions are showing you've got needs that you've been pushing down with the 7 of Swords. This means talking yourself out of your feelings, right? I'm talking myself out of my feelings. So let's say you've got, and this is for the new moon. So I just want you to be aware of this energy when it starts to move. So you've got needs. Maybe you want to be intimate with your partner, right? You want to be intimate with your partner, either sexually or just emotionally. You want that emotional connection with your partner, right? That's a valid need for a human. This is why we get in relationships. We want to emotionally connect with them, right? Okay. So you're pushing it down, you're pushing it down. It's like, oh, they've got all these excuses, and I'm really stressed out. There's this going on in my life, that going on in my life. It will get better when I'm get through this project that I'm working on, or fixing my family, or whatever it is. It seems like there's excuse after excuse after excuse with this, right? With this need. And you push it down, you start to listen, right, to this. Well, yeah, I understand, right? You're compassionate and everything. Meanwhile, the anger is starting to come up. Well, you don't judge it. That anger is showing you something. That fear is showing you something. The grief is showing you something. That something has to change, especially when it's anger. So what the 49.2 is, fine, right? I've dealt with this for 5, 6 years, right? Forever time. It's been, I reject you. I've had enough of this. We're not aligned. This is clearly not important to you. And it's important to me. Our principles are different, right? Our values are completely different. I value intimacy and emotional connection in the relationship, and you don't, right? And then the 49.2 is like, it's the gate of divorce. This is the channel of divorce. And this is about releasing you into your authenticity. It's not a punishment. It's about you being released from these tribal programs that you've inherited from just living on planet Earth from your ancestors, your maternal line, your paternal line, right? It's like, no, you need to be, now you're going to be liberated. This is revolution. This is rebirth, the 49, right? So this is I've just had enough. Last resort, last resort. So, what else did I want to say that with the 49.2 is, okay, the last resort. Um, you won't be able, that's what I wanted to say. You won't be able to stuff down those emotions anymore, basically, with this 49.2. Okay. And it's all about getting to that Aries, right? And look where it is. It's in the 51. That's the called the channel of initiation, the 5125. This is about making the jump, right? And trusting that I deserve better. Where's Uranus here? Because that's the ruler of the new moon. It's in the 23. It's I know, right? I know. And you're going to have this channel of awareness to help you for this new moon, right? The insight will come. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So maybe you don't have like the big, like, oh, I'm not having this big, like, I reject you moment, right? Maybe you're going to be, you're easing more into it. Is you've got to accept. Okay, so here's what we do here. Okay, so I'm going to accept. I'm going to accept. Here's your choice to get you out of victim consciousness. My partner is not interested or valued and watch their actions, not their words, because that's this. The Seven of Swords is deceitful, right? It wears a mask, right? So the words may sound really good. They may be saying, yeah, no, I'm really interested in emotional connection with you and this and that, but. Again, you listen to their frequency. You don't listen to their words, you listen to their frequency and you watch their actions. So watch their actions. Their actions will tell you everything. So you either accept my partner is not interested in whatever the need is that you're expressing, right? So I'm going to accept that they'll never change. They'll never change. And I need to be okay with that, right? Or I value, right? So I can't accept this. I can't accept this forever until the day that I die, that I'm with this person and I will never get these needs met, right? Well, then you're empowered to make a choice. This gets you out of victim consciousness. So it's about like the 49 with the new moon is finding the right people. It's finding your right people that are aligned with these principles, that are aligned with your values, right? So sometimes with the universe is we have to be brave and make the jump and just trust, right? And just trust. So that's what's up for the that's what's up for the new moon. And remember, it's a 30-day cycle. It's a 30-day cycle. And in breaking out of these tribal bonds, this is the most of the condition, it comes from this tribal consciousness. right? We're enslaved in a sense by these tribal principles and conditions, and it's just been all about burying the individual, and the individual's coming back in the truest sense of the word, right? The authentic self is coming back, right? But it's buried under this tribal nonsense and BS. Okay. Um, okay. What else did I want to say? I want to go quickly through the types, but let me see if there's any. Okay. Yeah. The other thing too is with Aquarius, right? This moon, yes, it's reactionary, be very reactionary, but it also gives you a detachment from your emotions. So you're not overwhelmed by them. You're feeling them, but you're not overwhelmed by them. But I just want to, I want you to trust and have faith because this is how the soul is communicating to you, right? Is through your feelings and emotions, right? So if you're not listening, you know this in your life. If you're around somebody like a parent, maybe you're around your mother and your mother never listens to you, and you endlessly say, talk, talk, talk. She doesn't listen to you. And then you get to the point, it's like you're screaming, right? You're screaming at her. Well, this is like the soul starts screaming at you and you're not listening. And that's the volatile emotions, right? The anger, the rage. So you want to be more subtle, right? More subtle. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes. That's a good point. Jen Goodwin said that it's not what's happening in the programming or the matrix. It's not, don't concern yourself with what's happening in the matrix. It's about you living correctly as yourself. That's what it's going to move you through. And that's what's going to keep you in your core, right? That's your authenticity, not getting battered around with what's happening in the world. It's breaking down. You can't save it. It's divine will that it's working like this. Okay. Um, yes, Rumble, long hair. Yes, yes. You can Janus stores break ancestral curses. Yeah. You just living of yourself, like you're the medicine for your ancestral curses, right? You're the alchemist. I talked about this. There's no such thing as a black sheep. You're alchemists, right? You're alchemists, and you're here to do this work within yourself. That's how you break the curses, especially around relationship stuff. Um, yeah. So, right in these times, you want to be innovative, you want to be optimistic, you want to be flexible, right? Okay. So, what I'm going to do now is go through the types really quickly. It's not gonna, because I have to leave. What time do I have to leave? I'm not good with time when I do these live streams. Um, okay, I got it. Okay. So pipe up if you're a generator and your profile too, and your astro information. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is roll the die again. That seems to work well for us. Do I want to roll the die? I think I'm going to do the ego cards actually. The ego cards for each one. Okay. Someone said about the ego, and you may hear this out in the New Age community too, about the ego is a good thing. The ego, and if you talk to any masters, like ancient masters, they've all said the same thing. It's our enemy, is the ego. That's what I trust. I don't trust New Age teachings because they're often mixed with ego in themselves, right? But the ego They were saying that the ego is the child of the spirit, right? But whoops. Okay. Here's the child. It's your emotional body. That's the child. Okay? That's your child, is the emotional body right there. That's the child. That's the inner child. The ego is part of the mind, right? So it's the child of the mind. Okay? And if you look at it like everything's the child of the spirit, everything comes from spirit. If you look at it like that, like God the Father, right? That everything comes from the infinite. But I don't want people to get confused, right? So the ego, that's why I call the willpower center, right? So people don't get confused about this ego. So it's part of the mind. It's part of the mind, and it has to do with your identity, right? So that's all that ego is. It's identified with something, your role, even the material possessions. It's ego, it attaches to everything. And then it makes you, the soul, believe that you're this identity. And as soon as you think you're an identity, you're in a box, you're in a prison, basically. And then you got to defend that identity. And then you waste a bunch of your energy, right? So just to keep that. So this is really, the ego is really, it's not our friend. It's not our friend. Okay. So let's do cards and we'll go back to the generator here. So remember, generators are 70%. They got to respond with a yes or no. So let's see what we've got for our generator friends in the ego trap cards. It's really a relationship theme, and it makes sense, eh? Because the South Node's in the sign of Libra, and Libra is all about relationships. Okay. So what do we have for our generator friends for this new moon coming up in February 9th? On February's a relationship month too, isn't it? Okay. So you got the depression card, depression, generators. So if we go back to depression, let's go back to our emotional layer KK. So remember that the 49 is very emotional, right? It's very emotional. There's a fear of rejection. It's a big fear that we have to face with the 49. So you may have this natally. Okay. So look at the layer cake. These are the three main emotions right here. Three main emotions. So look where depression is. It's anger, right? So it's anger turned inward. So I use that example of expressing to your partner over and over and over and over again your needs, right? Well, this can bring up anger, but if you've got a fear of rejection, fear of abandonment that you haven't dealt with, then it goes inside and gets repressed. It gets repressed, and this leads to depression, right? It leads to depression. And the depression, right? You don't have the energy. Doesn't seem like you have the energy, right? To act, to take action, to finally just make a choice. And often, if you're in this position of depression, don't run out and buy pills, right? Don't do that. Don't stay in the surface. There's nothing wrong with depression. Depression is a signal to you that something's off. Go deeper, explore why you're depressed. Start writing, right? Start being honest with yourself during this new moon. I'm going to be honest. I can't be honest with my partner. I can't be honest with my friends or my family, but I can be honest in my journal. I'm going to give myself permission, generators, right? I'm going to give myself permission and I'm going to just write. I feel, right? And then you'll stop. The ego will try to stop you here, right? What do you mean? And blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be depressed. There's something wrong with you. You've got a chemical imbalance. You got this, you got that. But you keep writing, I feel, I feel, I feel. And then something will start to move, right? Something will start to move. Energy will start to move. So with depression, it's about a loss, right? A loss. Maybe you've been rejected in the past, right? So getting over a divorce, maybe, right? Unable to uh, uh, get past this rejection, right? The ego comes and haunts you. 61 24, coming back with all the memories, right? Of this past relationship that you can't let go of. You won't let it go. Um, and this is about exhaustion, but not in a good way. Remember with the generator, you've got this colored in as a generator, your sacral. So you've got lots and lots of energy, right? But you're exhausted in a bad way. This is exhaustion at the end of the night generator where you feel really good how you spent your energy. This is exhaustion, like I'm just exhausted. I'm fed up, right? I'm fed up. I don't want to move forward in my life. I can't let this loss go, whatever it was, right? Well, this is your inner work, right? This is your inner work to get through to the next stage, right? To get to the next stage. Maybe generators, you've got this amazing relationship that's waiting for you, but you can't get there because it's not you're not traveling um, horizontally, right? You've got to travel vertically. That means you travel in consciousness. That means that you need, in order to get to that relationship, you need to get to the next stage. And that means letting go of this loss that's causing you depression. That's causing you depression. And then the ego gets in there and totally uses that, right? You're depressed, and then all the reasons why it's your fault, right? Or the other person's fault, and it keeps you in victim, right? And it keeps you just in chains. You're in chains in this prison. It's a mental prison. So with the 49.2, this is an opportunity for you to just like, okay, it's time to move on. I've licked my wounds, right? Maybe I licked my wounds too long. We got to stop and lick our wounds when we go through losses for sure. But now it's time to move on. It's time for me to move on now. You know, it's not my life. Time is ticking, right? This year is going to fly by so fast for you. And you got to look at what's my fear. What will happen if I let go of this? What's my fear? You may discover I fear freedom. I fear the unknown, right? I fear who I'll be. Here's one. I fear who I'll be. Who am I without this thing that's causing me depression, right? Who am I? That's a scary question right there, generators, right? So what you do here with because you got the 49 really helping you out for this new moon, just commit. I'm not gonna indulge in in the past anymore. Right? Aquarius is about the future. I'm not going to indulge in the past anymore. I'm going to really open up my sacral and I'm going to really listen to it, right? With the yes or no. And I'm going to let my sacral lead me into the future, right? Into the future. Because the mind just wants to the mind and ego want you in the past. They don't want you in the future, moving ahead as a generator. So that's what I would say is start to commit, like commit to yourself, commit to yourself and let the loss go, right? And that means the heart, right? So that's the grief. It's about you feeling the grief. So going deeper than the depression, deeper than the fear, I'll always be alone, right? Go to the grief and let your heart open for this new moon. Okay. And to take care of yourself. That's the other message too. To take care of yourself. So I'm inviting you to this mother wound because this totally fits with the mother wound invitation. So check out your sacral. So that would really help me to like just really let go, like a deep, deep let go of this relationship pattern, right? Yeah. Okay. Anything else for the generators? Oh, look at that, two generators. Hey, I just noticed that Mercury is activating the 41. Look at that. That's all this, that's the start codon, right? So this is a new start for you, generators. Yeah. It's a brand new start for this year. Okay. And letting go is easy. You can't let go with the mind. You let go of the emotions. There's an emotional attachment to the past here where you're stuck in a rut, right? You're stuck in a rut. And it's just the mind, it's just your mind and ego. Okay. Okay, so let's go for the MGs and their open and enveloping aura. So we're talking today, MGs, about the 49. That's the new moon. Last resort, ready to bust a move, right? With the 49.2, and it really has a lot to do with your relationships. So I'm going to pick an ego trap card today for the MGs and see what they need to know about this shadow of reaction, the gift of revolution, and the city of rebirth. This is a really amazing new moon. Okay. Okay. Hey, what do we got for the MGs? What's the ego telling the MGs? What's the trap for this new moon? What do they need to know? What the MGs need to know? Please, what the MGs need to know? Ooh, there's one. Oh, here's a good one for the MGs. So Pluto's, you can see Pluto's still in the 60.5, but it's in Aquarius, right? So remember what I said, Pluto's all about obsession, right? It rules Scorpio, and Aquarius is people, right? So what does that mean? I'm obsessed with what other people would think of it, think of me, right? What if this is last resort? So this is about rejection or acceptance. What would people think if I left this relationship, right? What would people think? That's what the ego says. And this is the tribal conditioning, right? Tribal conditioning is about control through shame and judgment. Control through shame and judgment. This is what kept us in loveless marriages. This is what keeps us in relationships where we don't feel fulfilled. We don't feel, and this is not coming from ego. We don't feel nurtured, right? We don't feel valued. We don't feel seen in our relationships. Our needs are completely denied or squashed or made wrong, right? So this is the ego coming out with, well, no, you got to just suck it up, right? This is, look at this, MGs. You got to just suck it up. This is the seven, right? The seven of swords. This is the tarot card that correlates with this 49.2. This is wear the mask, right, MG? I gotta just wear the mask. I wear the mask that I'm happy. I'm happy in this relationship, right? I'm happy, right? And I completely deny my needs. I talk myself out of my emotions. I'm having these strong emotions surfacing. That's the 49.2. And it's going to get more right with Pluto and Mercury and Mars coming together, right? The emotions are going to be strong. So this is not a time with the 49.2 to be talking yourself out of your feelings. They're just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I speak from experience, right? You can only use your mind to repress your emotions for so long because they're so much powerful. They're way more powerful than the mind. So this is what would other people think, right? What would other people think? What would my community think? What would my family and friends think if I did this? Right? What would they think if I followed my intuition? Right? What would they think if I followed my heart? If I followed what made me happy, what would they think? Right? So it's giving all your power. This is the people pleasing. 57, self node. I fear the future. What the future come is what's ahead, what will happen to me tomorrow. Right? And this is about the people, right? The people. But they're having their own experiences. And the thing that I say to people, because this is kind of ridiculous, like what would other people think of me, right? And most people are so self-absorbed, right, on the planet, especially if they're NPCs. Let's get the NPCs line up here. Especially if they're NPCs, right? They're in their own thing. They're in their conditioning. They're in their ego. They're not even thinking about you, right? At all. This is just your own mind, right? This is just your own mind, MGs, right? People don't have time to think about anybody else like the masses. So this is fear of judgment by others, right? Fear of rejection. I'll be rejected by others, right? But it's really coming from you. It's coming from your own mind. So it's coming from your mind, but you're projecting it onto other people. But it's really coming from you. I fear judgment. It's my own judgment. I'm fearing my own judgment. I'm fearing my own ego judging me. I'm fearing my own ego rejecting me, right? Feeling rejected. And that's one of the six primal wounds, right? And this is such a big part of the 49. It's about rejection, right? Rejection or acceptance. But it's your life. It's your life, nobody else's, right? So I say to people, it's, where their parents are bugging them to go and have a baby, right? When are you going to have a baby? I say to tell your parents if you want a baby, go have your own baby, right? If that's what you really want, nobody's stopping you. Go have your own baby, right? Don't be projecting your unlived life on me or your unlived dreams on me, right? So it's your life. It's your life. Maybe it's your last lifetime on planet Earth, right? You need to enjoy it. You need to follow your own authenticity. And human design gives you a tool to, right? A raft to get you to that place, to yourself. This is self-reliance time, right? And that's following your strategy and authority. The yes or no coming from your sacral, and then be strong enough to say, this is my life. I value my life, right? I'm here. They're not going to be with you when you take your last breath. That's impossible. It's you, right? This is your journey in your life. And you want to do your destiny and grab a thick skin, right? Have a thick skin that people will judge you, especially if they're not authentic themselves. Because when you're authentic and true to yourself, you trigger people that are wearing masks. That's that seven of swords. I'm going to wear a mask and pretend everything's okay, you know? And you've got greater things to do as an MG, right? You're the builders of this new earth, the MGs. So yeah, drop that. What would other people think? It's so tribal, right? It's such a tribal consciousness thing, right? And people have been in, like, in relationships and loveless marriages and forever and ever because they were afraid of what their neighbors would think or what their family would think. So they just live someone else's life and not their own. It's sad. Okay. Anything else for the MGs? And go back and listen to the beginning. And some people say they like to listen to the whole video. They like to listen to the other types, especially if you know your family and friends, so people that you live with and stuff. It's good to know their type. Okay, so let's go for the manifestors. So manifestors, remember they're 9% of the world. And Today we're talking about the new moon in the 49 right here, coming off the solar plexus. So this is it's the gate of principles. So this is about aligning you with people who share your principles, your guiding principles, your values, right? It's about aligning you with those people. And so the 49 is the gate of the butcher, the gate of principles, but it's the gate of the butcher. So it's about cutting, cutting you away from the people who don't share your principles and don't share your values. Right? So I'm picking ego cards today, ego trap cards that are part of the mind. They trap you in your mind. You're not self. And okay. So what do we have for our manifestor friends? And what do they need to know for this new moon? Coming. What do our manifestor friends need to know about for this new moon? Okay, sweet present. What's our manifestors? Here we go. So you got the unlearning card. Okay. Okay, let's say unlearning. Unlearning. So instead of learning something new, it's about unlearning. So this is about letting go of your conditioning, okay, and beliefs. And remember that the 49 is very tribal. So there's things that have come, beliefs, conditioning that have come down your ancestral line that are not true and authentic to you, right? This is very, very tribal, this whole channel. So these are old beliefs that you've inherited. So the 4919 is the bride and groom, right? The bride and groom. This is your relationships, right? Your relationships. So, I mean, manifestors have to deal with anger anyway, right? And oh, I know what I wanted to say too with the 37, right? Saturn, because we want to look, okay, there's the moon, it's Aquarius, but it has a dual rulership. So we've got Uranus right there, and then Saturn. These are the two rulers. And then we've got Saturn in the 37. It's there for quite a bit. This is about gender, right? This is the family. It's also tribal, the 3740. But this is about gender. It's about gender too. I'm just thinking of that because you're a manifester. And the manifestors are very masculine, conditioned. Not that they're like male masculine, but how their aura works is very masculine in a sense because they have to initiate, right? So the female manifestors have to kind of break these patterns, right? These old beliefs and old conditioning of what it means to be a woman, right? What it means to be a woman. And if your man is not comfortable or he's completely identified with his role, his ego is identified with that role, then this is going to shake things up, right? But with the 49.2, right, with the 49.2, it's last resort. Okay. So there's anger that's going to come when you're not operating correctly as a manifestor, but there's going to be anger that's going to come up from your own emotional body that's showing you that maybe you're trying to make yourself small or you're trying to fit into that gender stereotypical role and it's not working for you because you're here to initiate, you're here to inform, right? So your partner has to be really stable, right? Really stable and solid but that's not your concern. Your concern is just to be true to yourself, right? And how you operate. So it's about unlearning. So dig those things up. Where in my life am I being inauthentic? Where in my life, because if we go back here, it's the Seven of Swords, right? The Seven of Swords connects to the new moon here, and this is about wearing a mask. It's about a deceit, right? It's about lying to yourself, right? So what mask am I putting on? That's not me. That's not me. It's not authentic to me. And your emotions, right? Because it's the 49 there, very emotional. Your emotions are going to are going to show you like it's like you've got these clothes and they're too tight. It's like I can't wear these clothes anymore. They're too tight, and you burst out of them. So it's about you bursting out of a role for this new moon, and it's going to be around your relationships, right? So maybe you and your partner, you look at your principles, right? And your values. And maybe one of your big values is I need to be myself in this lifetime, right? I can't play this role. I can't play a role. I have to be myself. I have to be my authentic self, right? That's my value. Well, you check in with your partner. Is that a value of theirs? Do they have that same value? Well, you'll have guiding principles then. If you're being yourself, I'm going to accept you. This is acceptance. 49 is rejection or acceptance. I'm going to accept you for who you are. And I'm going to accept you for who you are back, no matter what that looks like. Right? It can be like this is Aquarius. It can be very unconventional, unusual. That's Uranus, right? Unusual, eccentric in a way. It's unique, right? It's not been seen before because this marriage, the 4919, that's marriage. Then that's an institution that's going down too with religion and health, the medical system and government and all that. Marriage is going down too, right? So you may be leading the charge on that as a manifestor, right? Especially if you're a woman manifestor. So you're unlearning something. So just look at everything. Like, where's the anger coming up for me? And then look at it, explore it. Okay, I'm feeling angry when I acted and behaved in this way with these people. And it's like, oh, was I trying to put myself in a box? Was I trying to put myself in a role? And then it's like, where did that come from? And that's how you unlearn. You just see it. And it's like, oh, my mother modeled that to me, or I was taught that. I was actually taught that, right? And then you let this all go. This is about you getting rid of this tribal shackles off of you as a manifestor. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Pluto and Aquarius time is just really this year is about really letting this conditioning go. And we're going to have 20 years of it, you know? So it's exciting. I find it exciting to think of what will be as a humanity without this tribal conditioning overlaid on top of us. That served us at one point. I'm not saying that it's all bad, but we've outgrown it, right? We've outgrown it as a humanity. It's holding us back. Okay. So let's go for projector, the projector crowd here. Okay, so projectors, I hope that you watch the whole video and the other types because you're all about learning about the other types. And you'll learn something too, like watching the other types in especially the beginning of the video. So we're talking about the new moon in the 49.2, right? So this is about relationships. It's about, and it's very tribal, right? It's very tribal, this 1949. So I'm going to pick an ego trap card to give us some direction and to talk about this. The 49. The 49, remember, is a big part of the solar plexus mutation. The 49 and the 55 are chemically connected to one another And that whole channel is breaking down, like the 19 and the 49 and the 37 and the 40 for this solar plexus mutation. Okay. So what do we have for our projector friends for this new moon? What do we have for our projector friends for this new moon? Okay. What do we have for our projector friends for this new moon? Okay. So another one for clarity. We'll do three. One, two, three. Okay, just one. Okay. Oh, you got two. I got two. It's funny. I knew that I wanted two. And then the one it was underneath. Okay. So this is heavy. This is heavy for the projector. Okay. So the ego trap card here is nihilism. Nihilism, which to me is called depression. Okay. And then lashing out. Okay. You can see the connection here. Okay. Um, so listen, this is listening to the ego that's telling you that life is meaningless, it has no meaning, right? Or no purpose, too. So if the ego is saying that, that means that you're going to identify with it. It means like, oh, my life is meaningless and I have no purpose right here. And this can totally come in when you're in between um invitations, right? So I just want to remind people that because we're moving through a huge transition as a humanity, the shift of the ages, right? The frequency on the planet shifting and changing, our consciousness is changing, everything is changing. So what happens, and the ancients told us this, is that we go through a gray period. It's called a gray period on the planet. And it happens when we're in these great times of transition. We're not completely in the new age, but we're not out of the old age yet. So there's a gray period, right? And this is also when the um, the authority, right, our authority moves from the ego to the soul, right? Moves from the ego to the soul. So what's happening during this time is that the ego is losing its power. It's getting neutered in a sense, the ego, right? The last 2000 years have been ruled by the ego in the Piscean age, right? This is the dark age, it's the ignorance. Ignorance means I'm identified with my ego, right? Completely identified. I'm merged with my ego. I have no idea anything else exists except my mind and my five senses, right? In this physical reality. So with cold depression, because the ego is losing its power, right? It's losing its power. It can't make things happen like it used to, right? It's losing the power. So you may have found this yourself, like the old ways just don't work anymore. How I used my ego before, it's not working anymore. It's not working for me anymore. That's because the ego is losing its power. It's got no power. It's like if you see a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, when that ego starts to kick in, right, with the child and they're turning the lights on and off, right, and they're making noises and stuff that's the ego. It's like, look, I have power. Look, I'm making the look. I made the lights go on and off, and I made all these crazy sounds, and I make my parents do this and that. Like that's the ego, right? Just simple. I'm just being simple. And then as it comes into adulthood, we do different things than turning on to the lights here and there, right? It's like we go and we make things happen, or the ego thinks it's going out and making things happen in the world, right? So, but this is losing power, right? This is losing power. The ego power is losing, 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 losing. So what's happening, it's not having the effect in the external world that it used to. Like our old ways won't work. If we needed a job, we would just use our willpower and our ego and fake it till you make it and then make things happen, right? And now it's like, no, that's not going to work. The only thing that works now is surrender. It's surrendering your power to your soul, right? That's the only thing that's the real power now. So with the gray period, it what is happening is the ego is getting frustrated, right? The ego gets frustrated. And then because it wants to exist, right? It wants to be seen, right? The ego wants to be seen. It wants to know it exists. So it lashes out, right? It will lash out. And this is a symptom of the gray period. I'm just going to lash out. I'm going to be destructive, right? The ego becomes very, very destructive and even self-destructive, right? Nothing's working. So I'm just going to go into my addictions, right? I'm just going to delve into my addictions. I'm not going to care about myself. I'm just going to, right? Just be really reckless. And that's the ego trying to get something like, right? I'm just going to destroy as much as I can in my life or destroy my relationships, push people away, right? Push people away just to have that ego get a hit because the ego is like hungry for a hit, the ego hit, right? So this is what could be happening here with the 49, right? So remember, it's about acceptance or rejection in your relationships, right? Okay. So or rejection. So these cards are saying to reject, the ego is saying to reject and push away that other person, right? To avoid vulnerability, right? Vulnerability in relationship. It's like you can't fire me, I quit, right? I'm not even going to go and I'm not even going to go into a relationship because the ego will say, well, you're just going to get rejected anyway. So why? It's too difficult, especially as a projector, because we require so much understanding and because we're so different than the other types and we operate differently. And it can seem, especially if you're an individual, you got to explain yourself and right. So it's like, the fox and the grapes. The fox really wants the grapes and he's jumping up, but he's barely reaching them, not at all. And then suddenly he just gives up and says, I didn't want them anyway. They're sour. Right. So that's this energy. That's the energy for the projector. Well, I didn't really want it anyway. Right. So again, it's talking yourself out of your feelings here with the Seven of Swords, right? Letting your mind and ego talk you out of what you're really feeling and what you're really desiring when it comes to relationship. What else do I want to say about that? And there's a great meditation on that. I think I have it on my website. I'll put it in the information box. Okay. For cold depression. It may be on my YouTube too. Like just look for it. It's a great meditation. And then what it does is it unfreezes your soul. So with cold depression, just so you know that everybody on the planet is depressed, but they don't realize they're depressed. It's like a subtle depression. And this is this anger, right? This anger that needs to be released. Okay. So to watch that, the 49, because look, the 49 and the 42, they're programming partners. And the four is all about forgiveness, right? It's about forgiveness. That people aren't perfect. Don't listen to your ego, right? Well, there's this wrong with them and there's that wrong with them. There's always something wrong with somebody, including yourself. Forgiveness is just about overlooking that we're not perfect right? We're not perfect. And I'm just going to forgive. I'm just going to forgive. Um, okay. Anything else for the projectors here? Feel like I'm missing something. The cold depression. I think just what I want to say to finish off the projectors is the in-between space, right? And that goes with this 6124 too, that's being activated, the channel of awareness. As we play that out in between space, as we're in between invitations, and you may be feeling that yourself, experiencing that yourself, that you've got to watch, right? That nihilism comes in, that ego can sneak in and with its stories and what you have to do. And so we need to be, as projectors, we need to be really okay in that in-between space, and the in-between space with 6124 is the space in between the thoughts, right? In between the thoughts. That's where all the magic is. Okay. Okay, that's what I got for the projectors. And then let's finish it off with the reflectors. 1% of the world. And so reflectors are really going to feel this because they're all about the moon, following the moon cycles. Okay. Mm, okay. So I'm just picking some cards, reflectors, and ego cards. Be sure to watch the beginning too, reflectors, if you haven't already, just to get a sense of the program for this new moon. Okay. So what do we got for our reflector friends? What do we have for our reflector friends? What do we have for our reflector friends? To finish it off, what do the reflectors need to know? What's the ego that's coming up for the reflectors? Ooh. Okay, you got guilt. Reflectors got guilt and the white knight. Okay. So this is about saving someone. 49.2 is about your relationships, right? The 4919. So feeling guilty, not forgiving yourself for a past mistake, going into sacrifice in order to pay off guilt, trying to do God's job, trying to do the divine's job, right? As a reflector, and trying to save somebody, going into sacrifice. Okay, so it keeps the focus off of your pain. Okay. Well, that's interesting, isn't it, reflectors? Because the programming partner of the 49, that is forgiveness. So this is about forgiving yourself, right? This time that we're in right now, it's about letting go of the people that don't share your principles and your values. It's the butcher, it's the gate of the butcher, so that you can be free from these dynamics, right? So this is really about forgiving yourself. So just make that your part of your sadhana, your daily spiritual practice is just to say it. Just say the words, I forgive myself, I forgive myself. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for, you know, harming any others unintentionally or intentionally, just over and over and over again. And that will start the release, right? So the thing is to maybe you did make some past mistakes, right? Maybe you're a parent, right? And parents do this often, especially mothers. They look back and in hindsight, because this is a time of reflection, in hindsight, yeah, they could have done some things differently, right? Done this and done that. But the past is the past. You can't change the past. All you can do is release yourself from it, and that's by forgiving yourself, right? and then let go of this guilt because the guilt doesn't serve anybody. Again, it's tribal control, right? Control through guilt, shame, right? That's what the tribe does. So I would look at mother wound stuff. Like go back to your mother. Was she guilty? Did she feel guilty? Did she make past mistakes, right? It could be like an ancestral dynamic that's repeating over and over and over again. And the white knight is like, so you don't feel that guilt, right? Well, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to save this person because I made a mistake in the past, right? That doesn't help anybody. It keeps them in victim consciousness and then you in victim consciousness too. Okay. Okay. Well, listen to the other types too, reflectors. Okay. So that's what I have for everybody. And good. You guys like the ego cards? Pipe up if you like my ego cards. These are, you can see worm tongue on the back, back of them. It's kind of my own personal deck, studying the ego myself. And I will see you on Sunday. Okay, so subscribe, all that stuff. And I've got a free newsletter. I've got all my links in the information box. And also keep in mind, Heal the Mother Wound online retreat. You can find lots of information on this. This is really like, wait till you see the transits that are happening February 23, 24, 25. So supportive of healing this wound and letting this go, right? For our ancestors and our future generations too, and for ourselves, of course, right? So we can really be free. Okay. So take care, and I'll see you soon on Sunday. Okay. Sat Nam Aloha.